27 years. I spent 27 years behind these walls for a crime I didn't commit. It's hard to put it to words what it feels like to have your life taken, to be labeled something you're not, and to serve time for somebody else's crime.
Brian Hooper has spent nearly 3 decades in prison, convicted of murder in 1998. That case is now being reviewed for the first time. And Fox 9's Mary McGuire joining us in our newsroom. So Mary, Hooper's family says he did not commit this crime.
And Kelsey, Brian Hooper was sentenced to life in prison in 1998 for the murder of a 77-year-old woman in Minneapolis. But he is adamant he did not commit this crime. And today he faced his first case review before the parole board.
And we are about to watch this parole hearing out of Minnesota for a man who stands up and says, I am innocent. The one thing you're not supposed to do when you're having parole. But I think he's got a leg to stand on. We'll go over the information after the parole hearing, but to give you some insight, there was no physical or biological evidence connecting Brian to the crime. 4 people pointed a finger at him and said he's the one who did it. And since then, all 4 have recanted. And then the 5th person who stood state witness took the stand and made testimony. He did it in exchange for not being prosecuted himself. Let that sink in. Now with that, let's jump in.
Our records indicate that on April 15th, 1998, the body of Ann Prasniak was found in the closet of apartment 31 on Park Avenue in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The body was enclosed in a cardboard box and enclosed in plastic bags. Minneapolis police immediately began an investigation and discovered Ms. Prasniak was the listed renter of the apartment and lived alone. On April 16th of 1998, the medical examiner conducted an autopsy and stated her manner of death was homicide and that she had been deceased for approximately 2 to 4 weeks when officers discovered her body. On April 20th of 1998, officers conducted an interview with Brian Keith Hooper, who admitted to entering the apartment on 3 separate occasions. He stated he did not have permission from the owner of the apartment to enter and only did so with the intent of smoking crack cocaine inside. Hooper stated he had entered the apartment without permission during the past 2 weeks and that the apartment owner was not present during those times. Minneapolis police conducted a search of Ann Prasniak's apartment and recovered a Ziploc baggie with Hooper's thumbprint on it. Police continued to investigate and interviewed several witnesses who stated that Hooper had told them that he committed the murder. On November 3rd of 1998, Brian Keith Hooper was sentenced to life imprisonment by Hennepin County District Court after having been found guilty of the offense of first-degree murder. Today's review by the board represents Mr. Hooper's initial review after serving approximately 27 years of incarceration. His minimum parole eligibility date on this life sentence will occur on April 18th of 2028. Thank you. I turn this matter over to the board. Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hooper. How are you today?
I'm all right.
All right. I'd like to start by asking you to tell the board what it is you'd like to see happen as a result of today's meeting.
Well, it is my sincere hopes that we can come up with a thematic and comprehensive plan on which to base my release.
Okay. What is that?
I'm hoping we can come up with that.
Okay. Well, I'm asking you what it is you would like that to be.
I would like what to be?
The plan to be.
My plan to be, hopefully, to take the necessary steps to move forward so that I can go home. I'm not under.
What do you see those steps as being?
I see myself leaving. I see myself going home. No, that's what I hope the steps will be.
Okay.
I'm not understanding what you're trying to ask me.
Okay, so you believe that you're ready to just leave and you will do perfectly fine in the community?
As I said, I'm ready to take the necessary steps.
So, Mr. Hooper, I would just want to ask that question. Do you believe that you are in a position where you could be successfully released without the possibility of coming back?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, and what's the basis for that position?
What's the basis for that? First of all, I don't supposed to be here. That's the first basis. Second, I
What
have
is
a
that?
support.
So what is that? I didn't hear that first thing.
I said, first of all, I'm not supposed to be here.
Okay.
Second of all, I have a support group in place.
What have you had a support group inside?
Inside this prison?
Yeah.
No, I have
Okay.
me to support me.
Can I ask about, I think it was a discipline incident that happened in late 2023. You know what I'm speaking of?
You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'd like to hear about that. What was that about?
Some individuals was planning on committing bodily harm towards me. And I made sure that it wasn't going to happen.
Okay.
I mean, your office could protect the other 4 guys that got attacked that day. So I didn't think they couldn't protect me either.
Okay. So what was your action then in response to that?
I just picked up a stick and put it in my area. That's it. That's all I did.
And that was what was the beef, or what was the issue that prompted that?
The issue was they wanted to boycott work because they wasn't coming out on the weekends. And I didn't want to be involved in that. I wanted to continue to do my time the way I do my time. And they took that as offensive. So that everybody that went to work that day, they planned on attacking us. And if you look at the reports on that day, you will see that 4 individuals got attacked. I was the only one that didn't get attacked.
Okay. And that was because you secured a weapon? That was the reason why? Okay. All right. I'm trying to just square, and I understand that the innocence claim, and I think you understand that that's outside the purview of this board, right? The determinations around that are through the appellate process, not they don't rest or sit here. We, on the other hand, and are obligated in this role to think about the issue related to community risk in terms of a release. And I presume you've had a chance to go through the documents that were produced as a result of this. For instance, the comprehensive risk assessment that was completed.
Commissioner, I pose no risk to society.
All right. So have you had a chance to go through that comprehensive risk assessment report?
I mean, did I? Yeah, yes, I have.
Okay. So you indicated that you pose no risk to society. One of the things that the assessment indicated is that you thought to present with a moderate to high risk for future violence. Can you describe and explain how it is that you believe that you pose no risk to society?
Commissioner, I would have never been a violent person, first of all. So how they base their determinations, I have no clue. but obviously it's wrong. I don't think a person can sit down with me for an hour and determine my character.
Great. All right. I want to turn to today. You have your son with you today. We thank you so much for being here in support of your father.
Thank you for
I'd like
having
to I'd like to open the floor to you and have you talk a little bit about where you see things at, and then we'll open the floor to all the members of the board to ask any questions of either of you that they like.
No problem.
So just what is it that you would like to share with the board relative to your father?
Yeah. When I first got invited to this meeting, I didn't know what to expect. I know some of my relatives wanted me to prepare a speech, but I didn't think that would be the best approach. I'd rather come in here unfiltered, unscripted, and just speak passionately about my father and have it come from the heart. So that's what I plan on doing right here, right now. And just to highlight my dad, and in order to highlight how he's had a positive impact on my life, I have to highlight some of my own accomplishments, because he has been my ultimate guidance counselor in helping me navigate life as a young man, and how he's been my ultimate guidance counselor to help me be successful in life. So to not be so long-winded, I'll just take you through a few challenges that I've had in my life that he has been there to help me navigate. Starting off, my father has been in prison since I was 7 years old. I am now 34. So he obviously physically he hasn't been there because he has been in prison, but he has always been there mentally. He's always been there every step of the way to give me guidance that I've needed as a young man to navigate this world. Like I said, I'm 34 years old at the moment. I have a bachelor's degree, I have a master's degree, I have an education specialist degree, I have a K through 12 principal license, and I have a Minnesota teaching license as well. I'm currently a year and a half away from a doctorate degree in education. And all of that, I'm only highlighting, this isn't about me, but I'm only highlighting my accomplishments because I wouldn't be able to get there if it wasn't for my father. And when I was in my last year of high school, before college, it's one of the toughest times as a young man trying to figure out who you want to be in the world and how you plan on getting to that next step. So I was an athlete. I was a superstar football player. But one winter, my 11th grade year, I slipped on some ice and I got a knee injury. So that basically ended my football career. So that brought me to a dark place. I started engaging in negative behavior that wasn't conducive to being successful in life. So my dad was able to talk me off that ledge and was like, if you're very passionate about sports, obviously you won't be able to continue to play it. What's another way that you can continue to be around it? So that's when a light bulb went off in my head, and for college, I started to pursue being a Phi Ed teacher as well as an athletic director. I didn't know which one I wanted to be at first, but those were the two things that I knew that were related to sports that I would be interested in doing. So he coached me and molded me to, pursue the athletic career. And with my last name being Hooper, I also pursued being a basketball coach. So I was a basketball coach. I was a special education assistant as well, because I knew I needed to get experience on the athletic side. So I wanted to be an athletic director. That was my final profession. So I knew that I needed to get experience working in schools as well as on the coaching athletic side. So I became a special education assistant as well as a basketball coach. To fast forward, I started working in the schools as an education assistant, and then I became an assistant dean, and then I became a teacher as well. In 2020, While working on my education specialist degree, which granted me my K-12 principal license, I received a national scholarship. I won a $10,000 scholarship. They only chose 3 people out of the whole nation to present that scholarship to, and I was one of them. And that happened in late 2020. So that scholarship allowed me to to pay off the rest of my education specialist program, which gave me my K-12 principal license. So it's a lot of positive in 2020 and 21, but there's also some darkness that I'm going to explain next. So 2 months, it's June 3rd, 2021. At this time, I am a high school dean in Minneapolis. It's a Thursday. My students graduate that Monday. I'm leaving one of my restaurants I go to my entire life. As I'm walking back to my car, 3 men attack me, and I don't know if they want to steal my car or they just want to steal from me. But long story short, I was a victim of gun violence. I was shot in my chest and I was shot in my leg. And this is 2 months before I'm about to receive my K-12 principal license. So it's the end of the school year. I'm expecting to go to graduation for my students that Monday, but I can't because I'm in the hospital with injuries from gunshot wounds. So during that time, like I said, I had a lot of negative thoughts. I'm wondering why, am I being a victim at this point in my life when I'm doing so good? I just received a national scholarship. I'm 2 months away from completing my principal license, and I have to deal with being a victim of gun violence. So my dad, he once again was my ultimate guidance counselor, and he talked me off a ledge and just encouraged me to take all that pent up negative energy and continue to focus it on building my education even further. So that summer, because I was shot in my leg, so I had to learn to walk again. So I spent that summer learning how to walk again. September comes around, it's another school year. Now I'm a teacher. I'm a middle school science teacher. So I'm navigating, that realm while still dealing with the mental. I'm physically okay now, but my mental is still up and down because I was a victim of gun violence a few months ago. So as I'm navigating being a teacher and dealing with my mental capacity at that moment, my dad just continued to be in my corner and be that supported parent that I needed at the time, and encouraged me, hey, I know you're dealing with a roller coaster of emotions at the moment, but you've got a lot of positive in your life and you're doing excellent. You have multiple degrees. You're teaching our youth how to be future leaders of tomorrow. So why don't you continue to do that? And he was right. I still had probably $5,000 left of scholarship to use. So he encouraged me to use that to go get my doctorate degree. So that's what I've been doing ever since. I've utilized the rest of that scholarship money towards my doctorate program, and a year and a half from now, I'll be Dr. Hooper. So
Good for you.
So I say all that just to say that my dad has been there. Without him being in my corner, I wouldn't be a successful person. I wouldn't be the leader that you see in front of you right now. And just although he hasn't been there since I was 7 years old, he's been in prison. He has been my number one support system, and I wouldn't be the leader or the role model that I am if it wasn't for this man sitting next to me.
Excellent. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your support of your dad and his support of you, and I appreciate the work you're doing, and it's incredibly impressive and something that you have a right to feel proud of, and your dad has every right to feel proud of you as well. With that, I would open the floor to any of the board members who have questions. Mr. Hooper.
Mr. Hooper, I have a question. In the program review team meeting that you had in April, the the report said that you indicated you'd like to be allowed to transfer to a medium custody facility, either Lino or Moose Lake. However, you said you would only like to be transferred if the reason for doing that was so that eventually you would be allowed to be released. And you're 3 years away from your minimum confinement date. Is that statement still true? Do you still feel that way? You would like to go to minimum if, in fact, you're on a path to be released?
Yes, I would like to go to minimum. Like I said,
Medium. I'm sorry, medium.
yes, I would like to go to take the necessary steps to get released. I would like to pursue, I want to do the C-Tech program in Moose Lake. I would really like to do that, if possible.
Thank you.
Mr. Hooper, I'd like to ask a question. Actually, a couple of questions. I noted that you have not had the opportunity to enter into CD treatment. Apparently, it hasn't been available for you. But if you did have the opportunity, would you enter it and attempt to successfully complete it?
Man, I have no problem with programming. Yes, I would go, no problem. I tried to get in when I first came from Oak Park. I initiated that, but I still haven't been able to get in.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. One more question. What led to you being involved in using the apartment of the victim and selling drugs out of the apartment? What was your lifestyle at that?
I never sold drugs out of that apartment. I don't know where that information came from. I've never said that.
It came from the report.
What report? It wasn't nothing I said. I never said that. Ever.
Okay. Okay, I'm not here to
you asked me a question
or anything. I was just asking a question to see what your response was. Do you believe that you would be able to cooperate and be receptive to input if you were on supervised release?
Yes, I will.
And I'm wondering, how do you get along with most people during the time you've been incarcerated?
I've got along well with individuals. I mean, I had a few incidents, but for the most part, I get along with everybody.
Do you think that you could benefit from any kind of pro-social programming?
I do a lot of that. I study with people. We sit down and do math together. We sit down and discuss things. But I'm not trying to be involved with nobody that's on nothing negative. So if it's negativity, I have no problem with being by myself. And that's how I've done my time these 27 years.
Okay, another question. How did you inspire your son to overcome his many obstacles and to succeed? How did you go about inspiring him or encouraging him or whatever?
This is my son. So I just talk to him like a young man. And I be honest with him about life and life choices. So, and he, by the grace of God, he was able to hear what I was saying to him, and he took that and elevated with it. And I'm so grateful he was able to listen to me. He didn't have to learn the hard way about I made mistakes in life. He don't have to make them. So that's how I was able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions for Mr. Hooper?
Mr. Hooper, The same comprehensive risk assessment that was conducted indicates that you believe violent behavior is justified under certain circumstances. Would you explain that?
I said, this is specifically what I state. If I'm getting attacked, somebody's trying to hurt me, I'm gonna defend myself. That's when I feel like violence is warranted. Those were my exact words.
There's also a reference in that same report to the fact that you would be resentful and non-compliant with a supervised release with somebody that you had to report to. Could you explain that in view of your earlier statement?
I don't know where that comes from. Though. I don't know where that's coming from. I never said that. I never said that.
Thank you, Mr. Hooper.
Just a couple questions for me real quick. So within the comprehensive assessment, I think it referenced that you had completed some programming, specifically, I think restorative justice. And if I understood, or if my notes are correct, I think one of the comments you made or what was documented is that it was hard because, because you didn't commit the alleged offense, but that you still got something out of that. You learned about the power of forgiveness.
Yes.
Are you able to elaborate on that? I'll just leave it. Are you able to elaborate on that?
When I did Restorative Justice 101, we watched the video, and I seen how the victim, the alleged perpetrator and the victim family member came together and was able to forgive. And when I seen that, I started feeling in my heart that I could forgive what happened to me, the wrong that's been committed towards me. Because if two individuals can come together, a person that allegedly took someone's family member's life and the family member can come together and have some type of mutual agreement to have peace within each other, I figured that I could have peace within myself and with everybody that had something to do with my wrongful conviction. So that's how I was able to forgive. And that's what I took from Restorative Justice 101.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Hooper, I appreciate your kind of your sense of the money management stuff and the savings that you've kind of acquired during your time there. One of the questions I have is that you indicated to the PRT that you have a whole bunch of money. I think was quoted in an external bank account. Would you be willing to?
No, I'm not going to discuss my finance in the open forum.
Okay, I'm not asking. I'm not asking you to discuss it. I'm asking. I wanted to ask a question if you would be willing to provide documentation of that internally.
No, I wouldn't. I don't want to divulge my finances to the public.
Okay. You don't have to divulge it to the public, but that's not what I was asking you to do. But I appreciate that answer. Any other questions that people have? All right. Hearing none at this time, before the board begins discussion and deliberation about next steps, I want to briefly open the floor to you, Mr. Hooper, to share any final comments with the board.
Yes. For 27 years. I spent 27 years behind these walls for a crime I didn't commit. It's hard to put it to words what it feels like to have your life taken, to be labeled something you're not, and to serve time for somebody else's crime. But despite the injustice of my conviction, I have done the time. I've done the time. even when the weight of this situation felt unbearable. I'd like to acknowledge the pain of Ann Prasniak's family. Losing a loved one in such a way no one should have to endure. I often think about that. I also think about my own family, the birthdays I missed, the milestones I've yet to experience with them. This experience has taken a lot from all of us. And I just want to be able to move forward with the time I have left. Today I'm asking for the opportunity to go home. Not because I want to escape responsibility, but because I have already served enough time for something I did not do. I would like to reunite with my mom, my children, my granddaughter, and be the son, the father, and the grandfather that they deserve. I would like to take my experience of this situation to help others. I've done the time. I stood up with integrity. I've done this time with strength. And I am willing to take the necessary steps to transition back into society where I belong. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to close the discussion, and as the board engages in discussion and deliberations, the board will not entertain any questions or allow interruptions. And at this time, I would open the floor to the board for thoughts about next steps.
Well, I'll start and I'll put in a motion form. Deny parole, he's not eligible for 3 years. Move to medium. It looks like Lino has CTEC and triad. But I realize that is the discretion of DOC, and then review in 3 years.
So there's a motion on the table to deny parole, which is technically not eligible to for 3 more years. Move to medium and review and continue for a period of 3 years, at which time he would be eligible. Is there a second?
Would the sorry, I'll wait.
I'll second it for purposes of this discussion, with the caveat, just to, the more the standard would be that he remain discipline free and successfully participating and engage with the required programming. So there's a motion and a second. Any discussions, questions, or thoughts?
The only other comment I was going to make was, I think if I remember reading it correctly, I think he has submitted a request to get into SUD treatment, and I understand that is one of the there is a directive for that. So I would just like to ensure that he followed through with that piece of it. Whether or not that occurs prior to a move to medium, or I know there are different treatment options, and I wouldn't necessarily put any real strict parameters on it, but just that the SUD piece be addressed.
I believe, was that your intent as well?
Yeah, the triad program, substance abuse treatment, is at Lino, and so is CTEC. So that would sort of meet both.
There's also that treatment option at most have too, would be, there's both places have
okay.
SUD treatment possibilities.
Yeah, so either Moose or Lino.
Okay, fair enough.
Any other thoughts, suggestions?
I just have a question in reading his file.
there's a lot of anger management issues and not a lot of insight. And also a view on his part that violence is justified. So I think that that needs to be a component of any continuance, that anger be addressed. And I'm not sure in the two programs we're talking about that it would be the focus of them.
And I would hope that that would be a part of the substance use side, that there would be some substantial, discussion of that. Because I think that's one of the concerns, is just that, the experience of going through incarceration, and getting out into the community. I am concerned about what that would look like, and his ability to manage the anger and the substance use issues that had him in this apartment at one point in time or another, to begin with. So I think that would certainly be something that would be a part of the treatment program, as I understand it. And we can add that in as part of that treatment side. And, certainly I would encourage Mr. Hooper to, to seek out and access those resources, which would just, I think, further indicate kind of his, readiness for transition in 3 years, should that, based on what he does this time. All right. We have a motion, a second, and I think a satisfactory kind of discussion of this, with the caveat that, again, remaining discipline-free during that time. To the motion, Board Member Bray,
Yes.
Board Member Earhart,
Yes.
Board Member Larson,
Yes.
Board Member Ramstead.
Yes.
Schnell votes yes. The motion prevails. Mr. Hooper, the team there will work with us. We'll begin the process of looking at a transfer to Lino or Moose Lake. You've heard some of the discussion of the board, some of the concerns of the board, and the board would see you again in 3 years. Any questions about that?
If it's possible, I would like to go to Lino because I did want to do PFA too.
Okay, we can talk about that. The only thing is just the timing wise, it can be a lot of, depending upon the CTEC, substance use, and PFA. And so the ability to complete all that, it's something we can talk about with your team there and kind of go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yep.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Good luck.
Mhm.
In the end, the board decided to move Hooper from Stillwater to a medium security prison and will review his case again when he's eligible for parole in 3 years.
That's the response that we wanted. I understand how the system works. I know that they're not going to do an immediate release, although they should, because he is innocent.
His daughter tells me this represents an important step towards her dad's freedom, but the fight isn't over.
We're going to be here every chance that we get to share his story, to say his name, and make sure that people know that this is unjust.
Now, Hooper's daughter also tells me that her dad's case is currently under review by Hennepin County's Conviction Integrity Unit, which investigates criminal convictions in the county where there is a plausible claim that an innocent person was convicted.
Okay, now let's go over the information of the case so that you can make a better judgment call if you think he's innocent. Now, we've only covered 3, this would be 4 parole hearings out of the state of Minnesota. The last one we covered was also a man who insisted that he was innocent. And no, this man who maybe you saw it, it's where his sister was his advocate, and she did a horrible job, of course. That man clearly was not innocent. But this man, look, if you don't think he's innocent in reality, as Dr. Grande says, certainly I think is innocent or not guilty by reasonable doubt. We'll go over the facts of the case, and it's just there's not much facts at all. Now, look, he had a horrible parole hearing. It's a little shocking how unprepared he was. You would know ahead of time questions that would be asked, how to answer the most basic questions like what your exit plan would be, which could be maybe I'll live with my son or something or daughter, but his indignation wasn't a good look. The parole board is not there to judge innocent or guilt. That's not their role. All they have to do is say whether they're basically saying how can we help you? You're gonna get parole, come up for official parole in 3 years anyways. But what can we do to make your life better in the next 3 years? And he approached this as an adversarial hearing when really it shouldn't have been. Now I know this is easy for me to say. I have not been rotting away in prison for a crime I didn't commit. And if I was, who knows how I would act. But, and again, I'm just a few more things off my chest before we get into the facts of the case. He should be very proud of his son becoming, getting a doctorate degree, getting a PhD. I'll to be frank, I watched this hearing before going over the information that Lady Holly provided, and look how much information she provided. It's page after page after page, 9 pages, and we'll go over the links she found, the resources, the information in this. I watched it before reading the info, and my first impression from watching it was, oh, what a doozy! This is a horrible parole hearing. And I'm listening to his son talk, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, this isn't a time to go and show off all of your accomplishments. And as a matter of fact, maybe you accomplish all of this because your father wasn't in your life. Because I mean, look at his attitude. Let's be real. This is not going towards having a successful path that you've gone through. All the adversarial, with the injuries and the getting shot. I mean, it's an incredible story, truly incredible story. But and for those of you who aren't familiar with parole hearings, we see it all the time. We see those who get up and they'll say that the chomo is their role model, and they'll say that we hear the word pillar of the communities. It's something that we see all the time. Now, maybe for this man, just having his father there was enough to keep him going. I don't know. We can't speak for him, but I'm just sharing with you my experience as I was going through the hearing, thinking this is just ridiculous. But it is what it is, and I'm not going to, I'm just sharing my experience watching right before seeing the information, before actually me believing that he's innocent in reality, and certainly beyond, you can't convict him beyond a reasonable doubt with the measly evidence they had. Now let's go through what I'm talking about. Thank you, Lady Holly, for providing all this detailed information. It's a little exhaustive, it's just a lot. It's a lot. There are so many appeals. I mean, he has been fighting. We have seen cases where there's one appeal, two. He hasn't stopped. There are so many over the years. And one might wonder why the Innocence Project wasn't involved in this, or maybe they tried to get them. The problem is that, let's just go through it. Okay, so Anne Prasnick's body was discovered by police, and the person who's probably guilty, as Lady Holly pointed out, was Anne Prasniak's goddaughter, who was living in the house with her deceased for like 4 weeks with a dead body. And she had the most to gain because it was the apartment she got. So it seems that we even have a suspect, but okay, let's go. And the same woman that brought him into the house. Okay. So Anne Prasnick's body was discovered by police in a large box in her bedroom closet after neighbors reported she was missing from her apartment. Trial transcript, her body was in the box wrapped in plastic garbage bags and blankets. Her wrists were bound with beige packaging tape in front of the body, and there were multiple layers of this same tape around her mouth, nose, and head. She died of asphyxia, either from her mouth being taped shut or being put in the box in an upside down position, or both. Let's just let that sink in, that this poor woman was tortured in this way at the end of her life. The medical examiner estimated at the time of death to be about 2 weeks to a month before discovery of the body. She also suffered broken ribs, injuries to the knees and wrists that occurred prior to death, suggesting that the killer beat her. Police quickly learned that Anne Prasniak's apartment was being used by a number of people to drink and smoke Pepsi. Miss Prasniak's neighbor told police that they had seen people coming and going from the apartment, in particular that a person by the street named Shay was seen entering the apartment with keys. Shay told attendants that she was the goddaughter of Anne Prasniak. Shay wrote a check from the victim's stolen checkbook. Oh, she wasn't the actual goddaughter. She claimed to be the goddaughter. I believe so. I may have misspoken. Shay is Chalaka Lewis, who became a key state witness. Oh, interesting. The woman with the keys writing the false check became the state's key witness. She told police that she and others had spent time in Prasniak's apartment to use narcotics and gave police a list of names of several people who had been in the apartment using narcotics. Brian Hooper was one of the people. She said that she had been in Prasniak's apartment when she provided the address to the police so that they could find him. The police quickly arrested several people who allegedly been in Miss Prasniak's apartment, and they were charged with burglary based on the admission of being in the apartment without permission, committing felony, and smoking Pepsi. Charges for Shalaka Lewis, Brian Hooper, a night walker, and a Pepsi user, and Father Quam, a man named Terry Edwards, and 4 others. The issue for the investigators, of which, if any, of the people held for burglary committed the homicide. So they locked them up, which is common practice, so that now that you can go and investigate which one of this group committed a homicide. This is it really is crazy. It really is. This case is nuts. Mr. Hooper has remained steadfast. Now, keep in mind, the people who wrote this are the people on behalf of Mr. Hooper. This is not, so it is going to be written in his favor. But I couldn't find anything that was generic where from the prosecution side, but assuming that all this is true, it's insane. So, and this is an official document. So let me, so you can, so now that I might have placed out in your mind, look, state of Minnesota, county, Brian Keith Cooper versus state of Minnesota. Memorandum in support of post-conviction relief, right? It's an official document, right? So I see, you assume this has to be true, right? You can't lie in an official document. You can, of course, use strong language in your favor, but okay. So innocence from his first interrogation, and now for some 18 years, he freely acknowledged being in the apartment and explained how he was taken there for the first time by Shalaka Lewis, the star witness who testified against him, who told him she was watching the apartment and feeding the cat for the lady who lived there while she was away. He insisted to police that, and has always insisted, he knew nothing of the murder or of her body in the apartment. Of course, the body part is so sketchy, but I mean, this was a Pepsi house. So, and by the way, I'm not making light of the situation by calling it Pepsi. It's just that it's a YouTube thing. Even when you see, I pop up the screen, the screen that says the warning screen. I do that because if I don't, YouTube will actually say that my channel is encouraging narcotics. That's how nuts YouTube has gotten. So if you put up the screen, a disclaimer, oh, now it's not. I'm not making this up. Okay. All right. So the trial testimony will be elaborated upon below with the key points. The evidence connecting Hooper to the crime was entirely testimonial. So now we're going through the key points of why he's innocent. At least innocent, if not in reality, by reasonable doubt. That for sure we're going to, I think, come to agreement on here. So the evidence connecting Hooper to the crime was entirely testimonial from 5 witnesses. 4 witnesses who claimed Hooper confessed, and Shalaka Lewis, who blamed Hooper in exchange for immunity. She's living in the home, writing checks with the dead body, and she gets immunity and not being charged with the murder. The defense theory at trial was that Lewis and Vonda killed Ann Prasniak and that Lewis blamed Hooper under intense police pressure in exchange for not being charged with murder. So this was the defense's theory at trial. This is what the defense says happened. Okay. So Lewis and Vonda killed her, and then they blamed Hooper. Terry Edwards, a man who also spent time in the apartment, told police that Lewis confessed to him and killed Ann. So another Pepsi user, they're all in this Pepsi house, was a witness. When police told Edward that he was going to be charged with burglary for being in Prasniak's apartment, he tried to recant that statement. Police question revealed that Lewis knew details of the crime that police had withheld from the public and would only be known to the killer. So this is police question revealed that Lewis, not our parole here, so Lewis knew details of the crime that police had withheld from the public and would only be known to the killer. Some details. Hold on a second. Some details. I lost track. I'm sorry. I know that's not calling. I lost track. The crime were released to the public and some were kept a secret by the police. Facts released to the public and widely reported to the media in this high-profile case included Miss Prasniak's body was found in the closet in a large box wrapped in plastic bags and blankets. Information withheld from the public included that Miss Prasniak was bound with tape and died from having her mouth taped shut. All information the tape was in any way used in connection with the crime was kept secret. Lewis knew that Prasniak was bound with tape, that she was bound around the wrist with tape, and that her mouth was taped shut. So they're saying that Lewis knew this. Shalaka, Lewis, and Vonda Qua's fingerprints were on items associated with the murder. So again, this is all good for the defense. So Lewis, the woman who testified against him, knew information that she shouldn't have, and her fingerprints were found on the items associated with the murder. Meanwhile, no physical evidence linked Brian Hooper to the murder. His fingerprints were only on a sandwich baggie and a beer can in the apartment. Hooper's fingerprints were not on any items associated with the murder. This is insane. This is maddening that he would be locked up if this is crazy, right? Lewis accused Hooper only after the police threatened to charge her with the murder unless she implicated Hooper. While threatening Lewis, police told her what she could say to implicate Hooper to save herself. We've seen enough interrogation videos to know that this is very likely, this happens all the time. Oh, he did it, right? He did it, right? Yeah, we'll make a deal. Lewis had been convicted of felony assault just 2 years prior. Lewis was allowed to plead guilty to burglary and served 1 year concurrent with a pending probation violation from a felony assault conviction. So, the guy had a long record. Not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination. And was given immunity from prosecution for the murder in exchange for her testimony. Sorry, not him. This is, I hate when they mix the first name and the last name. Shalaka Lewis was allowed to plead burglary for 1 year concurrent with pending probation violation for felony assault. So she even has an assault conviction in her jacket. So there was conflicting testimony whether Lewis thought her sentence would be 33 months or 1 year. Lewis testified she thought her sentence would be 1 year. Her actual sentence was stay of execution 33 months. So she actually was angry. She thought she was ripped off at her deal. It's pretty crazy. Now, the 4 witnesses. So what about the other 4 witnesses that said he did it? So the 4 witnesses who testified Brian Hooper confessed were Cardinal Brown, Calvin King, Lucas James, and Lolita Fairley. They have all now recanted their testimony. Importantly, none of their testimony or statements to police regarding what Hooper supposedly said to them about the murder contained any information about the crime that police had withheld from the public. This is important because it casts doubt into the credibility of the trial testimony. which in turn corroborates with the genuineness of their recantations. It is illogical that if Hooper were confessing this murder to several individuals, that he would coincidentally exclude all details that police had kept secret. Before Mr. Hooper was charged with the murder, and while he was in custody on the burglary charge, the media reported widely that the case on the people held for burglary. Therefore, anyone seeing media coverage would know that Mr. Hooper was in President's apartment along with Shalika Lewis and others, and that he was a possible suspect in the murder. All four of the confessions witness admitted that they followed the case in the news or heard about it before contacting police. The four witnesses who claimed Hooper confessed all admitted their testimony was false. The recantation of Brown, King, and James was subject for earlier post-conviction petitions and subject to this petition. Since Hooper's last petition, the fourth and final witness, Alita Fairley, has also recanted her testimony. Fairley has now admitted under oath that Brian Hooper never told her that he killed Ann Prasniak and that she told police this because she was hoping to get paid for her story. I mean, it is the brain of a Pepsi addict. So Fairley's recantation, along with I assume that's what she was. Fairley's recantation, along with the evidence from the past petitions, are the subjects of present post-conviction petition. The memorandum will show that Alita Fairley's recantation satisfies the Larson test for a new trial based on recanted testimony, and that in alternative, her recantation together with any or all of Brown, King's, and James' recantation requires a trial. I mean, if this went to trial, he would be found not guilty. There's no evidence. There's nothing. I mean, in today's day and age, people expect DNA. They're like, wait, there's tape on her. There's where's the DNA? I mean, that's today. This was done such a long time ago, but there's not even a fingerprint on anything associated with killing her. Just a baggie and a beer, which placed him in the apartment, which no one was denying. This is crazy. This is just crazy. We see this stuff. You see it on true crime. You see it where there's no one, where there is so much proof that someone is not guilty, but DAs will never. It's just too complex, and plus, who wants to write out a big fat check, right, for wrongly convicting someone? But the thing is, like, you can't prove that he's innocent. You could just argue for a new trial, and why are there reasons that they're not giving it? So the Minnesota Supreme Court affirmed the decision. Let's see. In 2008, Brown admitted in his Ford affidavit Hooper never told him that he killed Ann Prasniak, that his trial testimony was untrue, and that Hooper had only told him about how he was one of the people who had been hanging out in the apartment and did not know that the body was in the apartment. The post-conviction court applied the recantation and held it normally. Evidentiary hearing would be required to assess genuineness of recantation, but that's no hearing was required because even without Brown's testimony, the strength of the other evidence presented at trial was such that the jury would not likely have reached a different conclusion. Thus, the post-conviction court concluded that Hooper was not entitled to relief based solely on Brown's recantation because he failed to satisfy the second prong Larson. The Minnesota Supreme Court affirmed this decision. Even though his Brown testimony went directly to Hooper's guilt, the court agreed the jury would not have reached a different conclusion without his testimony, pointing to the testimony of Fairley, James, and Lewis, as well as the physical evidence of Hooper's presence in the apartment. Importantly, the court did not find that Brown's recantation was not genuine. Okay, what is the point? After the Hooper trial, King was questioned by the defense about whether his trial testimony was true. In this interview, Hooper counsel told King that he did not believe King's trial testimony was true, and that he did not believe that Hooper ever told King that Hooper had anything to do with the murder. King did not deny the testimony implicating Hooper. Where's the... But where's the response from the state? Like, how does the state respond to this? What do you guys think? I mean, I know I've shared my opinion already like a dozen times. But okay. I want to get to where it shows the state's response. How do they respond to this? Okay, I mean they're still pleading their case in here. Maybe it doesn't have a response. The court should reconsider. It's just a lot of it's kind of. It's still going. Will they even go through the interrogation here? And I get the problem. Part of the problem is that again, I'm only reading based off of the defendant's perspective. That's what I would love to have, but with all the information that Lady Holly had, unless I missed it, even though there's so many articles, I did not find anything from the state's perspective purely. Let me pause this and see if I can find it. Right. So there is no response in that doc. I'm just looking over Lady Holly's summary on this case, and it's just appeals, articles, court hearing, Justice for Brian Hooper. They're using a website, justiceforbrianhooper.com. That's great. Let's see. I'll put links to this in the description if you guys want to go check it out. Well, he should be proud of his kids, right? Amazing. Amazing what they've been able to do. I know I'm just going on here, but yeah, this is it. There's a lot. That's all, folks. I don't know what the state, but I mean, if you've been in true crime long enough, you would know that there are like the state, they're, and I might surprise some of you, right? But this is if people are the point of this channel is to show the good, the bad, the ugly, and the state often does do ugly, whatever percentage it is. You want to argue that 1% of people in prison are actually innocent. I think that this is a case where there is a man who's innocent, and it's just like the hardest thing to do is to overturn a conviction. It's like almost impossible because how do you do it? I guess you've seen, you can see these cases where someone comes up and actually says, "Ah, I did it," and they're like, "Nope, he did it because we said he did it," and that's just the way it is. I don't know how the only way is to get a new trial, and it's just one of those things. So let's go to our random fact of the day by Lady Holly, which is biting your landlord in Rumford is out of the question. No one likes having their rent go up, especially without warning. But if your rent goes up in Rumford, it's against the law to bite your landlord, no matter how tempted you may be to channel your inner vampire. This infamous ordinance also pertains to cats, dogs, and other domestic animals. So if you can't find your landlord, don't even think about sending your dog to do the job. This is Maine, so I have no idea why this law exists, why legislators felt it was important to put something like that in the law, but they did. And I don't know, our lawmakers are crazy, I think is the moral of the story. So if you were moved by this case, I guess feel free to check out their website and write a note of encouragement, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. With that, I'll let you go.
27 years. I spent 27 years behind these walls for a crime I didn't commit. It's hard to put it to words what it feels like to have your life taken, to be labeled something you are not, and to serve time for somebody else's crime.